What you went through, as narcissistic as we like to think of ourselves as human beings, was not for you. Let's go to Romans 8:28. It says, and we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are according to. What you went through, as narcissistic as we like to think of ourselves as human beings, was not for you. What I mean by that is it happened to you, but it wasn't for you. When my husband and I first started courting, there were some things that he had brought to my attention that I didn't really like. Okay? Believe it or not. I wasn't trying to hear it. Shocking. And I just swept it under the rug. I'm like, no, you're wrong. Maybe you misinterpreted what I was trying to say. Because, we all misunderstood, right? We just misunderstood. It's like, you didn't understand. I'm not a bad person. You just didn't understand what I was trying to say. It's like, geez. And there were some things that he wanted to share with me that he knew by the Spirit of God. I knew that he knew it because there were things that I never even shared with him that had happened to me. Because I know y'all don't think I'm just up here talking to y'all about what I heard. And so a few years went by, and I got pregnant with our daughter. And I remember one day, this is like almost halfway through the pregnancy too, right? And so pregnant women were a little emotional, just a little bit. And you gotta be a little sensitive, because if you don't get me the sauce from the correct fast food place, I might cry. And I was just sitting on the bed, and I was just sobbing, like by myself, just on the bed sobbing. I think he was in his office working. And I'm just crying. And I'm talking not like one of those cries like from up here, like that gut cry from the inside of, like the deep cry out to deep type thing, from the pit of my stomach, just crying. And so he comes in and he says, babe, what's wrong? Probably thinking, Lord, what did I do now? So he's like, what's wrong? Like head poked through the door, like, you okay? And I'm just sitting there and I'm just crying and crying and crying. I can't speak. And so I think at that point he realized it wasn't something very trivial, and it wasn't, pregnancy hormones, but something was really wrong. So he came in and he said, what's wrong? And I said, I think the devil's attacking me. And he said, okay, why? like, why? What'd you do? I said, I think the devil is attacking me. Listen to me, right? Calling good evil and evil good, right? We can't discern, right? Because we're trapped. I said, I think the devil is attacking me because there are things that are being brought up that I'm remembering that I don't ever recall happening until right now. And so he said, okay. And so he said, do you want to share some of those things? And so I said, yeah. So I shared some things. And this is like maybe, 4 or 5 years after that initial conversation we had where he was sharing things that clearly I wasn't in the right space to hear nor heed, right? And so when we talk about calling good evil and evil good, I dismissed what he said because I didn't want to deal with it. And truthfully, a lot of what he said, I didn't even remember happened to me. So here we fast forward 4 to 5 years, and I'm sitting there sobbing and crying. And I said, this happened, and this happened, and this happened too. And he said, do you remember 5 years ago when we were at Starbucks and I was sharing those things with you? I said, no, right? One of the coping mechanisms you don't remember. I had buried the trauma so deep on the inside that I literally lived 15, 16, 17 years and didn't even remember what happened to me. didn't remember the people, didn't remember the occurrences that took place, didn't remember, and we're talking about things being spiritual in nature, right? Didn't remember the repetition of being accosted several times after that at different phases and ages of my life, where it was this constant cycle. Didn't remember any of it. And so I'm sitting on this bed, shocked, triggered, angry, frustrated, confused, thinking, what in the world? And it was the fear of bringing forth a daughter into this world and the mere thought of her having to go through what I did. And thinking to myself, oh, heck no. There just ain't no way. What you don't recognize, you can't resolve, people. Had I not recognized the things that happened to me and the details of what transpired, unknowingly, I could have put my child in situations around those same people that are still alive. Do y'all not see this? I could have put my daughter in that situation if I didn't recognize and God didn't bring it to me. That wasn't Satan bringing that to me. That was God revealing it to me so I could deal with it. And at what point do we allow God to reveal these hurtful, painful things and not call it evil, but deal with it and dig it out? As deep as the rabbit hole goes, dig it out and resolve it and deal with it so that the cycles don't repeat. So what happened to your grandmother and your mother and what happened to you doesn't continue to happen generation after generation after generation. When do we break these things? And so that was 8.5 years ago. And I confronted people. I wrote letters to people. I shared it with the people closest to me that I felt needed to know. And it's interesting because I know this is very difficult for people because oftentimes when you share these types of things, for it to not be received well by others, and for you to be made like you're crazy, that didn't happen, there is such a culture of protecting the aggressor and the perpetrator and not protecting and believing the victim and the person that had to go through those things. And so I understand what it is like to not be believed, to allow that same person to keep coming around like nothing happened. And they done been all up and through the family several times and won't nobody deal with it. But you have to know for yourself, if you want to resolve and move through these things, you're going to have to confront them. You're going to have to confront them as painful as they are.